Sanniva, like that. Tadeva Shishyatam Prate Tasmin Unauchitya Isha Tatharo Vasam Kurvan. Slightly smile because in the dealings between spiritual master and disciple are great. It's not a joke. So therefore, since Lord Krishna himself is demonstrating how to function as a spiritual master, he is what happened? So therefore, Krishna did not smile sufficiently. Between both the armies, that indicates that Sarva Sakshika. This is, he kept everyone as a witness because he actually wants everyone to hear. As Lord of all, he's always in the superior position as the master of everyone, and yet the Lord agrees to be a friend, a son, or lover for a devotee who wants him in such a role. But when he was accepted as the master, he at once assumed the role and talked with the disciple like the master with gravity as it is required, seriousness, sober, in a very sober manner. It appears that the talk between the master and the disciple was openly exchanged in the presence of both armies so that all were benefited. In other words, Bhagavad Gita is for all. Text 11.
While speaking one word, you are longing for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise leader for the living, not for the dead.
So then Arjuna was silent. And the first thing Lord Krishna does is he agitates the intelligence of Arjuna by chastising him. You're crying, you're lamenting for that which is unworthy of lamentation. And you're talking on top of it, you're talking very learned words. I mean, words that seem very scholarly. Learned. Nachate pragya leshopyasti. But actually, you don't even have a slight amount of intelligence. Yetu pragyavanta, those who are intelligent, they don't lament for that from which life has gone away. That means the gross bodies. And nor do they lament for that from which the life has not departed. Refers to the subtle body. And the word cha, etc., indicates that they don't lament for the souls of these people also. You're talking like a learned man, but you do not know that one who is learned, one who knows what is body and what is soul, does not lament for any stage of the body, neither in the living nor in the dead condition. So knowledge means to know matter and spirit and the controller of both. So, I am Artha, that is the point. Shokaha, sthula dehanam virashitva, na antyaha, sukshma dehanam mukte prag, avinashitva. There is no point in lamenting for the gross bodies because they are definitely going to die. There is no point in lamenting for the subtle bodies because they cannot be destroyed. The subtle body cannot be destroyed until you are liberated. Then there is no point in lamenting for the souls because the souls are always eternal. So, for a person who knows the nature of the gross body, the subtle body, and the soul, there is no reason to lament. You have pointed out that Dharma Shastra is stronger than Artha Shastra. Now I am pointing out that there is something higher than that. The Jnana Shastra or the Moksha Shastra is higher than the Dharma Shastra. Therefore, Ashochi Shocha Brahma, you are lamenting for that, it is not worthy of lamentation, like an ordinary wretched man. Panditasya Nate Yogya, not a learned person like you are not meant to learn it like this. As he did not happen to be a very learned man, he was consequently lamenting for something which was unworthy of lamentation. The body is born and is destined to be vanquished today or tomorrow. Therefore, the body is not as important as the soul. One who knows this is actually learned. And for him, there is no cause for lamentation regardless of the condition of the material body. Text 12.
Never was there a time when I did not exist, not you. But all these things, nor in the future, shall any of us teach to be.
So, having established that Arjuna was not a learned person, because he was lamenting unnecessarily in an inappropriate manner, Lord Krishna the Supreme Lord of all, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he then teaches a very important teaching from the Shruti. Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitanana Ekopakunam Yo Vidhapikamam Iti Shruti Siddham Swasma Jivanam Cha Paramarthikam Vedamam. Then he teaches Arjuna, who was curious about the truths and whose palms were joined like this. That means Anjali is called. The palms are joined in supplication. So Lord Krishna begins to teach the first point, that there is a spiritual difference between himself and the living entities. This is already taught in the Shruti. Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitanam. This verse we will come across this. In the Vedas, in the Katha Upanishad, as well as in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situations according to individual work and reaction of work. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is also by plenary portions alive in the heart of every living entity. Only saintly persons who can see within and without the same Supreme Lord can actually attain to perfect and eternal peace. The famous verse. So from this, what we understand is there is one eternal conscious soul who is fulfilling the desires of many eternal conscious souls. So now, from this we understand that relationship of maintenance is also eternal. He is eternal, they are eternal. Okay. So from this we understand there is a spiritual distinction between them. It is not a material distinction. In Shankaracharya's version, there is this material distinction. So here there is a difference, real difference. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, regarding the previous verse, in order to show that one does not become qualified for sannyas by temporary renunciation arising from lamentation, the Lord said, "O Arjuna, you are lamenting for what is not worthy of lamentation, while speaking words like a wise person. The wise do not lament for the dead or the living." In order to make understand the knowledge of Atma and non-Atma. Non-Atma means matter. First, the Lord speaks of a common quality of the Paramatma and the Jivatma, both being Atma. Atma is indestructible and thus not a cause of lamentation. There are two types of Atma, Paramatma and Jivatma. I am Paramatma and you and these kings are Jivatma. It is not that I, you and all the kings did not previously exist and that will not exist in the future. We exist now, we existed in the past and will exist in the future. So the idea is that Krishna existed in the past, Krishna exists now, and Krishna will exist in the future. Arjuna existed in the past, Arjuna exists now, Arjuna will exist in the future. All these kings, they existed in the past, they exist now, and they will exist in the future. Three different parties: first person, second person, third person. And three different tenses also: past tense, present tense, future tense. Exist, 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 exist. 9 times he's saying, basically, 3 by 3. Okay. So it is very, very important to understand that everybody is eternal. That is a very important point. Nacha avidyati tattva vyavaharikoyam bhedaha. One should not think that this distinction between God and the living entity is a material distinction. Sarvagye bhagavati avidya ayoga. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who knows everything, he is not under the control of Maya. And even after final liberation, Lord Krishna will point out that the living entities are many. We will come across this in 14th chapter. That those who have taken shelter of this knowledge, they have attained my nature, Krishna will say. Plural. They have attained my nature. So that means those who have attained Krishna's name. And then also he will specify, they don't take birth at the time of creation, nor are they destroyed at the time of dissolution. That means they are out of samsara. That means they are liberated. And after liberation, they exist as they, many. Whereas in there are different versions of Mayavad. There is one version of Mayavad in which there is only one Jivatma. That one Jivatma is dreaming everything. And he dreams in a dream that there are so many other Jivatmas. Now, who exactly is the dreaming Jivatma and the dreamt Jivatmas? That we cannot say. So in one particular version of Mayavad, that idea is there. So therefore, Baladev devotion will bring up this point that no, there is a permanent spiritual distinction between Krishna and all the jivas. There's a distinction between the jivas also. We are not one. Even after liberation, there are many. Nacha abhedagyasyapi harer bhaditanuvriti nyayena idam arjunadi bhedadrishti vachya. Then the Mayavadis, they say, no. There is a certain eye disease that you see objects double. Okay, so when I look at this mouse, I will see two different mouses. Two mice I will see. Or when I look at the moon, I will see two different moons. So when I take medical treatment, it will take some time for my eyes to get cured. Until then, I will continue to see two moons. So that is called Bhaditanu. Already right now I have an experience of two moons. But I'm taking the medicine which will take away that experience so that I come to reality. But in the meanwhile, I continue to experience that law. Okay. So the Mayavadi people, they say, here Krishna is distinguishing between himself and the other Jivatmas and Arjuna. This is like the person who still continues to see two moons. Krishna has already taken to the process. Krishna is getting liberated. But on the way, the process is not complete, not fully cured. Because you're taking the medicine, you will be cured. But on the way, you will continue to see. So this is called Bhaditanu. Or like another standard example. You are going in a desert and you see a mirage. A mirage is a reflection. You know there is no one. You know there is no one. But still you see the mirage. So there's another example these people give. That, so like that, Krishna still continues to see many Jivatmas. Actually, there's only one. It's all one. But Krishna is still continuing to see all these delusions. So then Baladev Vidyabhushan says, no, Tatha Sati Upadesha Siddhe. In that case, Krishna's instructions would be useless. Maru Marichikada Utakabuddhir Vadita Api Anuvattamana Mithyartha Vishayatvan Mithya Vishayatva Nishaya Na Udaka Aharanado Pravate. If in the desert I am looking at a mirage, and I think there is water. If I really think there is water, then I will send people to fetch water, or I will say, okay, there is water there. In other words, you will give a false impression. You will give some false or invalid instruction. Throughout Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling, I am the master, you are the servants, you should serve me now, I will liberate you, and after liberation also, you come to my platform, but you don't become me. So now, if all of this is wrong, if in reality there's only one soul, then all of this is wrong. That means all of Krishna's understanding is wrong. All of Krishna's thought process is wrong. Then Bhagavad Gita itself would become useless. Then why in the scriptures Bhagavad Gita is accepted as the essence of the Upanishads? So then Krishna's instruction cannot be wrong. That means Krishna cannot be speaking some false thing. That means Krishna is not seeing anything false. That means this is a real fact. Okay. एवं अभेद बोध बाधिताति अनुवर्तमान अर्जुनादि भेद दृष्टि सत्वनिश्चयान नवोपदेशाद प्रवर्तयिष्यति इति यत्किंचित्. This is lesson usual teaching. On the other hand, we actually come across from the scriptures proper evidence. Prithagatmanam preritaram chumatva dushyastatastena mritatvanamiti. When one realizes that he is different from the Supreme Lord who is impelling everyone, then he attains immortality, he attains liberation. So therefore, one should understand that this knowledge of the difference between ourselves and the Supreme Lord, that you cannot get except through the Vedic scriptures. The Mayavadi fights back by saying, everybody automatically thinks that there is a God who is different from you. It is a matter of common knowledge. But the Vedic scripture teaches things which common people cannot know. That everybody accepts that. All the followers of the Vedas accept that. The Vedic scripture gives us information that cannot be achieved through Pratyaksha and Anuma. So this idea that there is one Supreme God and that Supreme God is controlling all the living entities, this any XYZ in the speak will tell you this. So for this, this teaching cannot be coming from the Vedas, because Veda teaches something which you cannot gather from Pratyaksha and Anuma. So then Sri Baladeva Devi says, no, you cannot understand just by your Pratyaksha and Anuma that the Jivatma's nature is like this, Paramatma's nature is like this, we are qualitatively one, we are quantitatively different, and that liberation can only be given by him. This kind of all this detail you cannot gather from this. You cannot understand that Supreme Being is all pervasive, I am not all pervasive, now I cannot be all pervasive. All these kind of details you cannot understand. So this Vedic scripture is teaching something unique that is correct. That is correct. That doesn't mean that the Vedic Shastri is teaching that we are all God. So that point should be very carefully understood. There are even more arguments coming from Ramanujacharya. But they are more complicated, so let's leave it like that. The Mayavadi theory that after liberation, the individual soul separated by the covering of Maya or illusion will merge into the impersonal Brahman and lose its individual existence is not supported herein by Lord Krishna's supreme authority. Nor is the theory that we only think of individuality in the conditioned state supported herein. Krishna clearly says herein that in the future also the individuality of the Lord and others, as it is confirmed in the Upanishads, will continue eternally. This statement of Krishna's is authoritative because Krishna cannot be subject to illusion. If individuality were not a fact, then Krishna would not have stressed it so much even for the future. The Mayavadi may argue that the individuality spoken of by Krishna is not spiritual but material. Even accepting the argument that the individuality is material, then how can one distinguish Krishna's individuality? Krishna affirms his individuality in the past and confirms his individuality in the future also. See, here Krishna is saying that I existed, I exist, and I will exist, which indicates that he is also separately existing, and he will exist in the future also. He has confirmed his individuality in many ways, and impersonal Brahman has been declared to be subordinate to him. Krishna has maintained spiritual individuality all along. If he is accepted as an ordinary conditioned soul in individual consciousness, then his Bhagavad Gita has no value as authoritative scripture. A common man with all the four defects of human frailty is unable to teach that which is worth hearing. The Gita is above such literature. No mundane book compares with the Bhagavad Gita. When one accepts Krishna as an ordinary man, the Gita loses all importance. The Mayavadi argues that the plurality mentioned in this verse is conventional. It refers to the body. But previous to this verse, such a bodily conception is already condemned. See, Krishna already chastised Arjuna. In text 11, you can see, he has said, you are speaking, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. So he's already criticized this idea that the body should be equated with the self. So why is Krishna going to talk about this body existed in the past, this body is existing now, this body will continue to exist? Why is he talk about that? After condemning the bodily conception of the living entities, how is it possible for Krishna to place a conventional proposition on the body again? Therefore, individuality is maintained on spiritual grounds and is thus confirmed by great acharyas like Sri Ramanuja and others. It is clearly mentioned in many places in the Gita that this spiritual individuality is understood by those who are devotees of the Lord. Those who are envious of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead have no bona fide access to the great literature. The non-devotees' approach to the teachings of the Gita is something like that of a bee licking on a bottle of honey. Therefore, the Mayavadi explanation of the Gita is the most misleading presentation of the whole truth. Lord Chaitanya has forbidden us to read commentations made by the Mayavadis and warns that one who takes to such an understanding of the Mayavadi philosophy loses all power to understand the real mystery of the Gita. If individuality refers to the empirical universe, then there is no need of teaching by the Lord. This is a summary of one of the arguments of Ramananda. That all these distinctions only apply inside material existence. They have no reality. There's no reality on the spiritual platform. Then what does it mean? Ramanujacharya asked this question. Only a mad person will try to instruct and teach his own reflection. No normal person will chastise his own reflection and then teach his own reflection and then ask his reflection at the very end, have you understood? So Arjuna is actually Krishna in reality, and that all the souls are actually one. What is this? It's some stupid philosophy. Everybody is one. If everybody is one, why? There's no need for teaching. Why Krishna has to teach Arjuna? The plurality of the individual soul and the Lord is an eternal fact. And it is confirmed by the Vedas as above mentioned. 13.
As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change.
Okay. All these souls eternal. But when their bodies are destroyed, then certainly there is lamentation, because without these bodies, how will these souls be happy? It's a fact that the living entity is different from the body. So the body may have different statuses. Kaumara, Yovana, Jara, Tisraha, Avastha, Bhavanti. There is a state of young boyhood, there is youth, there is old age. But the previous states are destroyed and the later states are attained. When one loses his previous state, boyhood, and he attains youth, there is no lamentation. So like that, when one gives up one's body and he attains another body, then there is no lamentation. Nobody laments when he moves from one stage within one's body to another. Similarly, the learned people don't lament when they change their body. Yayati yovana prapti nyayena. Harshahetuheva. Just like Yayati attained Yauvana, youth, and he was happy. So you give up your old body in order to get a new young body. Why should you be so unhappy? Dhiraha, Dhima, a sober person. A sober person means Deha Swabhava Jiva Karma Vipaka Swarupa Jaha. One who knows the nature of the body and the nature of how karma matures for a living entity. Here, Krishna speaks in the singular as the embodied soul. He's talking of one soul. But Ekavachanam Jatya Vipurayana. This is in the collective sense. Purvatra Atma Bhavatokte. Because in the previous verse, he has already pointed out that there are several different souls. Arjuna is different and each king is different. So there are in fact many souls. But sometimes we talk about an entire group in the singular. Man has progressed from primitive times. It is not referring to one particular group. It's a whole group of mankind. Okay. So sometimes even in other languages, we refer to an entire group in singular. That is singular. In Sanskrit, we have singular, dual, and plural. Normally, we have singular and plural. Okay. So sometimes, even to indicate something plural, singular is used. So even though right now Krishna is referring singular, even then, that should be kept in mind. Very complicated. Let me read out. Okay, somebody should read out the book.
Since living entity is an individual soul, which is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither for Bhishma nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering according to one's work in life. So, Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, you are surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies, for superior enjoyment of material existence. So, in either case, there was no cause for lamentation. Any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the super soul and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a dhira, or a most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the supreme clearable or changeable against the principle of the super soul being unchanging. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the Supreme exist eternally, Sanatana, and are called Shara. That is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmented. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life and bliss and knowledge with the personality of God. The theory of reflection can be applied to the super soul, who is present in each and every individual body, and is known as a Paramatma. He is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflections represent both the sun and the moon, and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level, as it will be apparent in the beginning of the 4th chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna, and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then the relationship of instructor and instructor becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy, Maya, then there is no need of one being the instructor and another the instructor. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to the living entity Arjuna, who is a forgetful soul deluded by Maya.
There are several different theories in Kevaladvaita. Kevaladvaita is the official philosophy, official title for Mayavada. Commonly called or specifically Kevala. So one idea that they came up with the idea that Brahman got cut up into the Jivatmas. The basic problem that they need to solve is if there is only one subjectless, objectless plane of unity consciousness, I need to explain what that means. It means that there is just consciousness with no one being conscious of anything also, but there is consciousness, and the consciousness is Brahman. So, like I look at this pen now. I'm conscious of this. I'm conscious of this. And the subject is the object. So there is consciousness, but there is no subject of consciousness, no object of consciousness. It's just one singular unit. It's just a platform. Platform is spirit. That is Brahman. If that is reality, then what is this world that we are all experiencing? So that becomes a big problem to solve. So one idea is Parichanava. Brahman got cut up into different things. Another idea is Pratibhava. Vada means philosophy. Pratibhava means reflection. Prabhu explains it, and Prabhupada has clarified it in simpler words. So, first of all, on page 81, last paragraph, Prabhupada points out that first of all, you cannot say that Brahman got cut up into the jivas, not break up into the jivas. As the Prabhu says, it is not a material subject which can be cut up here and there. Jadaya Daya Chaitanya Rashi Cheda Sambhava. You cannot break it, you cannot take consciousness and cut it using some matter. It's not the matter or Antastaran or the mind is somehow that cuts up Brahman into Jivatmas. That is not how it works. Because anyway, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Akshedyoyam Adakyoyam, the Jivatma cannot be cut, it cannot be burned enough. So it cannot be cut. Then there is the theory of reflection that Prabhupada refers to on page 82. And he says the theory of reflection can be applied to the super soul. You cannot, first of all, that which is all pervading cannot be reflected. How can you reflect something which is all pervading? You can only reflect something which is limited. So even if your mind is comparable to a mirror, and Brahman is comparable to the original object, and Jivatma is comparable to the reflection. The original object, if it is unlimited, how it can be reflected? How can something which is Just try to think about how something which is unlimited that can be reflected. Something which is all pervasive, it cannot be reflected. It can only a limited object can be reflected, no? Otherwise, how it can be reflected? So that itself is a problem. There are further problems. Madhvacharya also has analyzed in great detail. Nacha pratitya anyatha anubhavatereva akashasya pratibimbe manam. If you say, no, that is the example of the sky. But if you talk about the sky also, in the sky there are different planets, there are nakshatras, different stars, there are various luminous objects. So if you say the sky is reflected, then everything is reflected. You cannot say the sky is reflected, but nothing in the sky is reflected. Then that means what? Only a clouded sky. But every time the scripture talks about reflection, it doesn't talk about the clouded sky. Clouded sky is another problem because then the sky and cloud both will be reflected. See, they'll have to explain how non-variety has reflected into variety. How can non-variety be reflected into variety? You understand the problem that they are trying to solve. They are claiming that the mind is the reflecting agent. Antahkarana, the inner sense. But that is not possible, like he writes here. The Paramatma is different from the individual living entity. The sky is reflected in water. The reflections represent both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. And then ultimately, if you say that, ultimately this question will come. When, here is Baladeva. Nacha Atma Aikyasya Upadeshta Sambhavati. First of all, it is not possible for there to be a person who can instruct about the oneness of the souls. Because Sahi Tattvavidama, is he a person with realized knowledge or not? You can only have yes or no as an answer. If he is a person who has realized knowledge, Advye Advitiyam Atmanam Vijanataha Tasya Upadeshya Aparispurti. If he has realized that he is all the souls, then he will never instruct. If he is not realized, Antyetu Agyatva Devana Atmagyana Upadeshitvam. Then if he is not realized soul, then why is he instructing? He is unfit for realization. Then if you say, no, it's the Bhadita, it's the continuation of the problem. I have the disease of seeing two objects. I'm taking medicine. But that has already been refuted earlier on. That cannot be the case. Text 14.
And there is a place where I and 1 month
don't be in lamentation that Bhishma and others are going to die. What will happen to them? That sorrow is going to burn up my mind. It will burn up my senses. Don't think all these things. With that in mind, Krishna speaks this kind of verse. This contact of the senses and sense objects will produce happiness and bliss. Yadeva Shitalam Udakam, Grishme Sukadam, Tadeva Hemante Dukkadam. That very water which is cold in summer season and which is pleasing is cold in the cold season also, but it is displeasing. You have the same cold water, but in one time it is pleasing, another time it's displeasing. So like that, contact of the senses with the sense objects under different circumstances will give happiness or distress. It's all anitya, it's temporary. It's not permanent. Tolerate. So the point is that just as You take bath in the month of Magha if you are very pious, even though it's very, very painful. But because it gives you pious credits, therefore you do it. So like that, now, right now, you have to engage in yuddha, war with Bhishma and others. It may be distressing, but because it is taught in the scriptures, you must do. And that dukkha anubhav, that experience of distress, that is agantuka, that is just temporary. Just like the cold water that is displeasing in winter, that is tolerated. So like that. Dharma siddhatvat sodhya, that should be tolerated because it produces pious credits. It gives you piety. Dharmat jnana udayena mokshilabhe uttaratra tasya na anuvrittihi cha. From that pious credits, you are going to attain spiritual realization, with which you will get liberation, after which you will not continue to experience this distress. So it is only temporary until you attain liberation. That's all. Tolerate it until then. He's not saying that tolerate it forever. He's not giving any practical solution. He's saying tolerate it until you attain liberation. That's all. Jnananishta paripakam vinayeva dharmatyagastu anasahetu. Until you come to that point of realization, if you give up your swadharma, it will lead to several unwanted calamities. Kaunteya, Bharata, two different addresses. You belong to two famous dynasties, or famous for adherence to dharma. You going away from the pathway of dharma is not appropriate. So one has to learn to tolerate non-permanent appearances and disappearances of happiness and distress. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge, because by knowledge and devotion only can one liberate himself from the clutches of Maya. Regarding Kaunteya and Bharata, from both sides, he is supposed to have a great heritage. A great heritage brings responsibility in the matter of proper discharge of duties. Therefore, he cannot avoid fighting. Can someone read Vidvan translation for text 14?
Winter and summer, it gives happiness or suffering, filled blood, and objects of the Mata, Aripaman, Ocean of Kunti. Tolerating all this is the dharma described by the scripture. The natural dharma of the Kshatriya is fighting. If you give up this dharma, eventually break obstacles will not be. While a function of the senses, Mata, one experiences contact with the sense object. But that contact with sense object is cold and hot, which generate happiness and suffering. They come and go, just they are temporary. Tolerating all this is the dharma prescribed by the scripture.
Actually, this is the dharma that is prescribed in scripture at all levels, whether one has accepted karma, jnana, yoga, bhakti. Even for karma, one has to tolerate. Sometimes, while executing one's varna dharma or ashrama dharma, or for women, for them to follow Sri Dharma, the same activity which gave us happiness before, it may give unhappiness now. But because you want to attain dharma, pious credits, therefore you tolerate the inconvenience. So in other words, if you are interested in attaining dharma, then even if there is a lack of karma, you tolerate. Even if there is a lack of artha, you tolerate. Because artha and dharma is more than artha and kama. Just like a child cannot understand the value of money. Gross materialistic people don't understand the value of money. It's like for a small child, you give a 500 rupee note, you just tear it apart. Does not understand that 500 rupee note from that, how many lollipops you can get. Does not understand. Lollipop the child. But that 500 rupee thing is in paper. So similarly, gross materialist people don't understand some simple thing. With respect to you, take bath in Ganga. It doesn't understand actually what it can provide. It doesn't understand. These are all very bumper activities. And that also you do it on particular days with respect to prayers and all that. That is even more. So tolerance is a standard requirement. It is not only for liberation. It's just even in general, even to go to the heavenly planets. No, this is all bad. But Krishna is utilizing it here. 15.
A person who is not disturbed by happiness and experiencing both is certainly visible not
धर्मार्थ दुःख सहन अभ्यासस्य उत्तरतरस्य हेतुत्वं दर्शयन्नाहं. Now Lord Krishna points out that if you take up the practice of tolerating distress in order to attain pious credits, later on it will lead to happiness. That is pointed out in the current verse. Ete matra sparsha priya priya vishayanubhava yam dhiram dhiyam irayati dhimeshu iti vippater dharmanishtam purusham na vyathayanti. That person who is fixed in dharma and who is not disturbed by the experience of pleasant or unpleasant sense objects, that person, he is not Sukhadukkam Murshidam na kurvanti. He is not overwhelmed, dazed by material happiness or material unhappiness. Saha amritatvaya kalpati, muktaya kalpati. That person is fit for liberation. Natu tadrisha dukkha sukham murshita ityartha. He is not simply dazed by. In other words, he is not disoriented by material happiness or unhappiness. He is not distracted by all this. It's like this, just like when you are going in, when you are set out on a mission, let us say something happened. Let us say you are supposed to receive some money, big amount of money. In another place, say Calcutta. But you have to physically go and meet the person and pick it up. Then while going, you're not distracted by small things. And, you may experience some inconveniences, or you may, somebody may call you, come and eat in my place. You don't get bothered about these. I get such things. What, you're going to get 1 lakh in that place, whatever you bother about things. You just go, because you are goal oriented. You are not disturbed by all these subsidiary favorable or unfavorable experiences. One should not be dazed. And then he points out in the second half of this verse, Samadukka Sukham, that this person who is qualified for liberation is equal to material happiness or material distress. Dharmanushthanasya krishna sadhyatva dukkham anushangalabdham sukham cha yasya samam bhavati tabhyam mukham mlanitam ullasa rahitam. A person who is engaged in dharma, he will neither become morose because of the distress involved. Because to attain pious credits is difficult to achieve. Or incidentally, you may become happy also. But you are not disoriented by that also. So you are neither overwhelmed by material happiness, nor are you overwhelmed by material unhappiness. Focused. Sadhya chakshu, fixed in your goal. Your eyes are on the target. Anyone who is steady in his determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization, one can equally tolerate the onslaughts of distress and happiness, is certainly a person eligible for liberation. In the Varnashram institution, the 4th stage of life, namely the renounced order sannyas, renounced order. In the Varnashram institution, the 4th stage of life, namely the renounced order sannyas, is a painstaking situation. But one who is serious about making his life perfect surely adopts the sannyas order of life in spite of all difficulties. The difficulties usually arise from having severe family relationships to give up the connection of wife and children. But if anyone is able to tolerate such difficulties, surely his path to spiritual realization is complete. Similarly, in Arjuna's discharge of duties as a Kshatriya, he is advised to persevere, even if it is difficult to fight with his family members or similarly beloved persons. Lord Chaitanya took sannyas at the age of 24, and his dependents, young wife as well as old mother, had no one else to look after them. Yet for a higher cause, he took sannyas and was steady in the discharge of higher duties. That is the way of achieving liberation from material bondage. Okay, text 16.
Those who are seers of the truth and completed non-existence and material body, there is no endurance and of the eternal, and so there is no fear. This they have concluded by studying the meaning of the faith.
Tadevam Bhagavata Parthasya Asthana Shochit Pandityam Akshit. So far, the Supreme Lord has challenged the learning of Partha by saying that he has unnecessarily lamented so far. Shokaharam chasva upasanam eva tacha upasya upasaka veda gatitam. And how can he become free from lamentation? He can become free from lamentation when he worships Krishna. But for that, he needs to understand that there is an eternal distinction between the worshipper and the worshipable. Iti upasya jivamshanaha swasma upasakanam jivamshanam tatvikam svaitomapati. So therefore, the Lord has pointed out the duality, spiritual duality between the worshippers, the jivas, and the Supreme Lord, the source of all these jivas, the complete. So in other words, the jivas are the parts and parcels, and Krishna is a complete whole. Krishna is meant to be worshipped, the jivas are meant to worship. Atha yad atmatatvena tu brahmatattvam deepopame neha yuktah tapashye ityadav. Amshaswarupa jnanasya amshiswarupa jnana upayogitva shravana tadadav sanishtadin sarvan prati avisheshena upadeshyam tacha dehatmano vaidharmya dhyam atara nasya iti tad vaidharmya bodhaya arabhyate masata ityadi. So what Krishna is going to do is, he is first of all going to point out that the living entity is fully spiritual and different from matter. That is very, very important to understand, that the Atma is different from the body. Unless one understands this, one cannot enter into worship of the Supreme Lord. And this is common for Swanishta, Paranishita, Nirapeksha. This basic understanding. We know from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad and other places that knowledge of the nature of the part and parcel is very useful for understanding the nature of the complete whole. In the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, it is pointed out that one should first of all understand the nature of the Atma, then one should understand the nature of Brahman, meaning the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by considering the example of a light. In other words, one should understand that there is big light, small light, a bigger piece of flame, smaller piece of flame. But if you understand the nature of fire, then you will be able to understand to some extent other types of fire also. So with all of this in mind, the Supreme Lord begins by talking about the distinction between the body and the soul. Asataha, parinamaha, deha, bhavaha, aparinamitvam na vidyate. The body is asat. That means it is always subjected to transformation. The body, the body, mind, senses, everything material. And it does not have existence, meaning that it does not have unchanging existence. Sataha, aparinaminaha, atmanaha tu abhavaha, parinamitvam na vidyate. On the other hand, you have the soul. The soul is considered to be existing, meaning that it has unchanging existence. So it never changes. Deha atmano parinama aparinama svabhava bhavata. So the body is always subjected to change, and the atma is never subjected to change. Evam ubhayor asat shabda shabditayoh deha atmanoh antah nirnayah tattvadashivi tad ubhaya svabhava vedihi purushayat drishtaha anubhuta. This distinction between the nature of the body and the nature of the soul is experienced by realized souls. So, in other words, Krishna is not just because of theory, or is he just quoting some scripture. He is talking of something which has already been realized. In other words, it's open to independent verification. So, that which is possessing unchangeable permanent existence, that is called Sat. That which has changeable temporary existence is called Asat. So the distinction between these two should be understood. That is his point. So in other words, there are certain things which are eternal, and there are also certain things which are temporary. Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, these are eternal. But Prakriti, even though she is eternal, her manifestations are temporary. A cinema theater exists, but the particular movie that is shown, that may be changed. The theater exists as a theater, but different things are shown. So like that, Prakriti is like the theater, but then Prakriti's manifestations are put to the living entities. These manifestations we keep seeing, everything keeps changing all the time. The bodies themselves, they grow old. Now, why Krishna is talking about this? Because in the spiritual world, nobody grows old. See, here we reincarnate, no? In the spiritual world, there's no reincarnation. Right now, I am a human being. I have a particular age. I am male body. I have a particular name. So I identify myself with that. But in the spiritual, okay, right now I am like this. But after I die and I reincarnate into something else, I don't know what, whatever it may be, then I will have a different name, different form, different memory. In the spiritual world, this will not be happening to us. In the spiritual world, we don't reincarnate. In fact, there is no change as we know in the material world. So to clearly understand the distinction, we are taught this very important point, that this is asat, temporary. And the distinction between the eternal and temporary, it is constantly taught in Bhagavad. Canto after canto, we are taught this. Even in the 10th canto, we will come across this. Repeatedly, we will come across this. Very, very important something. Avinashwaram Atma Chaitanyam Uchyate. That which is not temporary, that is soul, that is consciousness. Asat Shabdena Vinashwaram Dehati Jadam. Sat Shabdena to Avinashwaram Atma Chaitanyam Uchyate. The word Asat refers to temporary, refers to the body and other material items which are temporary. The word Sat refers to the eternal soul. Evameva Shri Vishnu Purane Api Nirnayitam Drishtam. We also see that in Vishnu Purana. There's a whole section where it is pointed out that anything which is temporary is said to be non-existent. So this is something that we should note it down. Permanence is the same as existence. Non-existence is the same as temporality. So the nature of being eternal, that is referred to by the concept of existence. The nature of being temporary, that is referred to by the concept of non-existence. So in Vedanta Darshan, as it is expressed in Shruti and Smriti, you will continuously come across this language. Oh, but it doesn't exist. Oh, it is false. When you say it is false, what you are saying is it doesn't permanently exist. It temporarily exists. And several examples are given in scriptures. Like for instance, Alaka Chakra, firebrand. Suppose that's a fire torch. You know, a fire torch. It's just a fire. How do they call it in Hindi? You understand that?
Yeah.
So with a fire torch, suppose you go around with it. Round, run fast. Then you see what is known as a fire circle, Alaka Chakra. It's called a firebrand. And if you say, I like that firebrand, I want to wear that firebrand, you cannot wear it because it does not exist. It is not in the garden you can wear it because it does not exist. So this concept is repeatedly brought out in the scriptures regarding liberation and love of God and so on. I want to possess a young, beautiful wife. But a young, beautiful wife does not exist. It is simply a firebrand. Because you have a particular jivatma in a particular body, in a particular avastha, situation. She is young and beautiful. You give time, she will become old and ugly. But she is neither young and beautiful, she is neither, nor she old and ugly. It is just a combination of kanmatras, sense objects. And repeatedly you will hear it does not exist. Don't chase after that which does not exist. Repeatedly you will hear this. Don't go after something which does not exist. What does it mean does not exist? It means that it does not permanently exist. It is not, like I said, if you try to wear a firebrand, you cannot wear it. Whereas a garland, you can wear it because a garland exists. A garland always exists as a garland. At least for whichever period of time it exists as a garland. Whereas a firebrand is not a substance which, or it's like saying, let me go and embrace a wave. You cannot embrace a wave because a wave is not a thing. Water is a thing, but a wave is not a thing. Okay, so this concept is repeatedly brought out in the Vedic scriptures. You must understand the distinction between that which exists and that which does not exist. That which exists means that which permanently exists. That which does not exist means that which does not permanently exist. Then in other places, including in Krishna book, Prabhupada talks about certain things which really don't exist at all. They don't exist at all, absolutely. Like, for instance, the horn of a rabbit or the egg of a horse. Horses don't lay eggs. Rabbits don't grow horns. So when you hear this expression that it is just like a horn of a rabbit, it's just a combination of words which is creating an idea in our mind. In our mind, we are making one photograph image of a rabbit with a horn. But in reality, a rabbit does not have horns. So that is absolutely false. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains this in his commentary to the second verse of Srimad Bhagavati. Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayavam. He explains this. He says in Srimad Bhagavatam, the really real substance is described. Vastava Vastu is described. Vastu means that which exists. Vastava means existing. The existing existence is described. So then he explains what it means. So then he says, it's distinction between Vastu, that which really exists, and that which does not really exist. For instance, the egg of a horse, it does not exist. or Akasha, flowers growing in the sky. Flowers don't grow in the sky. That all the different or vastu. What is vastu? Vastu is something which is real, which can be verified to be existing. However, there are two types. There is Vastava vastu and avastava. Vastu means real and avastu means unreal. Vastava vastu means really real and avastava vastu means unreally real. Now, what is unreally real? First of all, I'll explain what is vastava vastu. Really real. Really real means something which exists as it is, like Vaikuntha exists as it is. Okay. The Jivatma exists as it is. Jivatma does not change. Vaikuntha doesn't change. Krishna does not change. Whereas unreally real refers to the transformations of Prakriti. What is projected to the conditioned source. These things are always changing. So you cannot say it is false, because absolutely false. You cannot, it is not like the egg of a horse. It exists. In this universe, a lot of varieties, there are many universes, in each universe, so many things are like all of that is real. However, it is not permanently real. Temporary real. Temporary real, permanent real, unreal. So another way of explaining, Vastava vastu is permanent real, Avastava vastu non-permanent real, Avastu is unreal. The word Vastava is derived from the word vastu. Krishna Chandra Thakur also explains philosophy very nicely, but he just chooses to do it in Bhagavatam. Okay. Someone should read the purport. Okay, ready. Sixteen shlokas now decided. Okay.
Those who are serious of the truth have concluded that of the non-existence, the material body, there is no ignorance, and of the eternal the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of God.
Okay. You want to read? Somebody else can read?
There's no endurance of the human mind, and the body is changing every moment by the actions and reactions of the different cells regulated by motion and reflection. Without growth and order are taking place in the body, but the spirit soul is permanent, remaining the same despite all changes of the body. That is the difference between matter and spirit. By nature, the body is ever changing, and the soul is reflecting. It's included and established by all factors of spirit and nature, both in performance and perception. In the written plan, the one spirit, we take the everything is a force, all of us in living with the spirit. Making to improve one more thing. Never existing and non-existing, therefore only the spirit and matter. That is the person of all spirit. This is the meaning of instruction by the law of the meaning who are divided by the influence of ignorance. Removal of ignorance and law of the existence of the eternal necessity between the worshipper and the worshipper, and the subsequent understanding of the difference between the part and parcel of the beginning of the truth and the spirit of the word. One can understand the nature of the supreme as follows the way of forgiveness. The difference between oneself and the supreme being and the truth as the relationship between the part and the truth. In the Vedanta scripture, as well as we see how it is really highly accepted as the origin of all humanity. Such humanity are experienced but feel and feel themselves when they belong to the superior nature and to be revealed in heaven. Although there is no difference between eternity and eternity, the energy is accepted as supreme and the energy or nature is accepted as the subordinate. The divinity, therefore, are always subordinate to the supreme law as the nature of the master and the servant, or the future and the God. Such clear knowledge is impossible to understand under the spell of ignorance, and to drive out such ignorance, the law is to the whole God, or the imagining of all limitations for all.
Okay. Oh, I also want to read text 16, consequent, without renting English translation. This is also important. 16.
Limitation and illusion, qualities of what is not the Atman, take shelter of the body. They have no existence in the Jiva. His Swarup is Atman. There is no destruction of the Jiva, which has an eternal soul. Thus, those who see the truth distinction between the eternal and the temporary determine the truth about them. Thus, the bodies of Bhishma and others who are Jivas, Atma Swarupa, are temporary. The Atmas cannot be destroyed, since that is their very nature. The material body is asar, moreover subject to change and thus temporary. The Jivatma is sar, that is not subject to change and thus eternal. One cannot destroy the Jiva with unchanging Swarupa. Thus, the seer of truth is distinguishing the unchanging from the changing, the refrain and the truth.
So all classes of persons, the jnanis, the yogis, the bhaktas, all of them accept that there is a distinction between the permanent and the impermanent. So that should be first of all very clearly understood. Strictly speaking, even the karmis understand this. By karmi, I mean those who have accepted the authority of the karma kanda section, the sinless materials, the pious materials. Even they know, because if you do not know that you are a spirit soul who reincarnates according to the laws of karma, you will not even carry out the duties of the varnashrama system. The varnashrama system itself is focused on giving us benefits for the next life. There is no question of next life if you don't even believe that the soul is going to reincarnate. So everybody knows. That is why here in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna will first of all talk about this. First of all, he talks about the soul. Even we will see after text 30, Lord Krishna will talk about either you die and go to heaven, or you win and enjoy this thing. He's talking of karma kanda, standard karma kanda. If you do your thing properly, then you go to the heavenly planets. But even before you come to the conclusion, you should fight in a war and die and go to the heavenly planets, you need to know you're a spirit soul. If you don't know that you're a spirit soul and that you reincarnate according to laws of karma, there is no, you will not aim at dharma, you will not aim at moksha, you will not aim at prema. Basic knowledge for karma, jnana, yoga, everywhere that is there. 17.
Avinashi Tadvidi Yenasari Idamati Vinasham Avya Yasya Nakaship Kartum Arhati. That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul.
Uttam Jivatma Deha Yo Swabhavam Vishatayati Avinashi. So he stated we already spoke about the nature of the Jivatma and the body. Now he elaborates on it in this and the next verse. Tat Jivatma Tattvam Vinashi Nityam Vidhi. You should know that Jivatma is imperishable. Yana Sarvamidam Shariram Tatam. And this entire body is pervaded by it through consciousness. Dharma Bhuta Jnana. Dharma Bhutena Jnanena Vyaptamasti. Through consciousness. And it is, the Jivatma is actually very small, it's atomic in size, but nevertheless, its consciousness fills the entire body. This verse more clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. Anyone can understand what is spread all over the body. It is consciousness. Everyone is conscious of the pains and pleasures of the body in part or as a whole. The spreading of consciousness is limited within one's own body. The pains and pleasures of one body are unknown to another. That means my pleasure and pain is not known to you unless I communicate it or unless you take some special steps. Naturally, you will not be able to understand it because naturally I'm only conscious of my body. So when Krishna says here, see, literally this is what he's saying. Yena sarvamidam tatam. That by which everything is pervaded. Sarvam means everything, but here everything means everything within the body. All of this body. Why all of this body in this context? Because the Jivatma is not conscious of everything. He is not the same as the Supreme Being. That has already been established so far. So in this context, the one who is conscious of everything means the one who is conscious of everything within his limit. This will be clarified in 13th chapter also, where the Jivatma will be described as Eka Kshetra, Swa Kshetra. He is aware of his field, whereas Krishna will be described as Sarva Kshetra, one who knows all the kshetras, all the fields. Therefore, each and every body is the embodiment of an individual soul, and the symptom of the soul's presence is perceived as individual consciousness. The soul is described as 1/10,000th part of the upper portion of the hair point in size. And then Prabhupada gives evidence. So it is atomic, and the influence of that spiritual spark, the Jivatma, it spreads throughout the body, just like the active principle of some medicine spreads throughout the body. Any layman can understand that the material body minus consciousness is a dead body, and this consciousness cannot be revived in the body by any means of material administration. Therefore, consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but to the spirit soul. The spirit soul is small, and there is evidence for that. You will find on page 86, Eshonaratma verse. The soul is atomic in size. Atomic. This is important because there were some philosophers, I think the Jain philosophers, they had the idea that the Atma, the size of the Atma depends on the body. So the Atma of an elephant is very huge in size, and the Atma of an ant is very small in size. They thought it just fills up. It's big body, it fills up with it. But we understand from the scriptures that's not, it is only atomic in size. Whether it is inside an elephant or a pyramid or a micro or a human being, size is always 1/10,000 of the bigger. So the constitution of the atomic soul is admitted in all Vedic literatures, and it is also actually felt in the practical experience of any sane man. Only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as all-pervading Vishnu Tattva. The influence of the atomic soul can be spread all over a particular body. Medical science accepts the importance of the red corpuscles, but it cannot ascertain that the source of the energy is the soul. Medical science, however, does admit that the heart is the source of all energies of the body. Such atomic particles of the spirit whole are compared to the sunshine molecules. In the sunshine, there are innumerable radiant molecules. Similarly, the fragmental parts of the Supreme Lord are atomic sparks of the rays of the Supreme Lord called by the name Prabhu or superior energy. So whether one follows Vedic knowledge or modern science, one cannot deny the existence of the spirit soul in the body. And the science of the soul is explicitly described in the Bhagavad Gita by the personality of God himself. 18.
Antavante me deha nityasokta sharirinaha anashano pranayasya tasma vidyasva bharata. The material body is indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal illuminated is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight for the descendant of Bharata.
Please read the English translation. 18.
All the body that is very, but the Jivatma in the body is indestructible. The Jiva or Jivatma cannot be measured since it is very small. Thus, O Bharata, not giving up Swadharma and enjoying these scriptures by all these bodies are temporary, but the Jiva is immeasurable, indestructible, eternal and body. Thus, not anything for the body, fight in order to follow the conduct of Dharma, which is the cause of religion.
That is why he's bringing up this point of fight. Why talking about spirit soul? Why is Krishna talking about fight? Because fighting is your swadharma. Without carrying out your swadharma, there is no question of you getting spiritual realization. So if you want to realize the subject matter, you must carry out your duty. Your particular duty right now happens to be fighting, so you should fight. That is the idea. Antavantaha, vinashi swabhava, sharirinaha, jivatmanaha. So all the jivatmas who possess their bodies all the bodies of the jivatma, they are all perishable by nature. But the jivatma himself is aprameya, cannot be measured. Atisukmatva is too small. Vijnana vidyatri surupatvacha pramatum ashakyasya. Also because he is both conscious and consciousness, therefore that's another reason why you cannot materially perceive. Tathacha idrisha subhavatva jivata deha na shokasthanam. So because of this nature, neither the jiva nor its body is meant to be an object of lamentation. Jivatmanaha deha dharma anusthana dwara tasya bhogaya mokshaya cha pareshena srijyate. Why did the Supreme Lord give a body to the jivatma? That is because he can either get material happiness or he can get liberation. Two reasons. The 10th canto, it comes. In the prayers of persona, there is nothing. So, because without a material body, you will not be able to execute the various activities which bring about spiritual realization. So, for liberation, that's one reason why Krishna is given. But he's also given it for enjoyment. If you want to enjoy, then you need a body. Sacha dhrumana bhavet tasmadidya sukha. And both bhoga and moksha comes about only through dharma. This also explains why, for instance, here, look at this track 1 and track 2, both of them are interested in liberation. So therefore, both of them are meant to start with a good degree of focus in their material duties, karma and jnana they have to be engaged in. Only this third group, Nirapaksha group, as soon as they get their opportunity, they will jump into the highest realm of. It's called Kevala Bhakti. Whereas the others, they will wait until they attain detachment and realization and become their countries. Okay, text 19.
Matter he is living the sphere, he is slave is another, but the same slave is not his slave.
Uttam Avinashitvam Dharanayati. Now he reinforces the teaching that the living entity cannot be destroyed. When an embodied living entity is hurt by fatal weapons, it is to be known that the living entity in the body is not killed. The spirit soul is so small that it is impossible to kill him by any material weapon, as will be evident from subsequent verses. Nor is the living entity killable because of this spiritual constitution. What is killed or is supposed to be killed is the body only. This, however, does not at all encourage killing of the body. The Vedic injunction is Mahimsyat Sarvabhutani, Sarvabhutani. Never commit violence to anyone. Nor does understanding that the living entity is not killed encourage animal slaughter. Killing the body of anyone without authority is abominable and is punishable by the law of the state as well as by the law of the Lord. Arjuna, however, is being engaged in killing for the principle of religion and not principle. Okay. Any further questions? Yes. Consciousness means only spiritual. We talk about Satchidananda all the time now. Chit. It's not matter. It is not a material object which is conscious. It is consciousness. It's spiritual, fully spiritual. Fully spiritual. That which is conscious is called spirit. That which is not conscious is called matter. Spirit itself is that which has self-awareness. It has self-awareness. That is called spirit. So that is either the Paramatma or the Jivatma. The Paramatma is self-aware. Each Jivatma is also self-aware. So it is consciousness and it is conscious. Any other question? Tell me.
The last time, before that, all 30 items.
30 items are nothing but our Bhakti activities and Jnana.
But for Karma Bhakti, they are also more.
They also follow.
But they are not on this 30 items.
They are also properly, the successful ones follow. No, but they won't do, don't expect them to do Vishnu Bhakti every day. They do. Everybody does Brahmashtami, no? Everybody does Rama. Everybody will do. They will do. And the successful ones know the position of Lord Vishnu also. But don't expect them to go on such a high frequency. That is all already track one. If you are doing Vishnu Bhakti on a daily basis, that too is a desire to attain eternal service to the Supreme Lord. That is very high. Whereas in Karma Kanda, these are you think. This universe is like a wonderful company, and Lord Narayana is the boss, and the payment is punya, and the job is my current life, and there are different jobs available. Posts are all available. I do my job, I get my payment. Like those. And if you say, how can they have an idea that you go to family plans and then come back? It's just like people go to America, they go to all these countries. They know it's a temporary visa. At least they got 5-year visa. Like the people say want some 1,000-year visa, 10,000-year visa. So enjoy them. They're not interested in liberation for different reasons. One reason is they're very attracted to matter. So they just want to experience variety within the environment. There are different people, all kinds of strange ideas people, conditioned souls have. also liberation is too expensive. It's not a, you cannot have this result, cannot have that result. It's just too demanding. So therefore, they think it's much more practical. Just do what you can. Okay. No.
If we have material desires and we pray to Krishna. So the son is for a spiritual advancement. So it is not that bliss that is around, but material desire.
No, I didn't understand what you're asking.
If I have lost my hand, I have things, I have desire to desire material world.
Okay.
Material things.
Okay.
But in front of the demon will go. We pray for our
Okay. So what is the problem?
we will not fulfill this prayer because we have material desires.
Really, we will put well, but we are contradictory now. I am my own enemy. What can be done?
But devotees are not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Amita Bhikya.
Sorry?
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said,
Which
so
data they
Chaitanya
will?
Mahaprabhu said, yeah, I said, go ahead. Tumhi Durga for Amita.
Yeah, there is this consideration that that is an explanation of one Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam text says that Krishna does not fulfill the material desires of a sincere practitioner, sincere devotee. That applies to one who has material desires and who wants the absence of those desires. But there are those who are very serious about it. Akama Sarvakama Mokshakama Udavati refers to those who are serious about it. If I have a serious desire for material activities, and I seriously submit unto Krishna, and I request him to seriously give me that, what I'm asking, that's he's a hardcore pursuant of that desire. Whereas somebody else may just have a casual reason. It just looks nice. It's not the analysis that happens. So that's different. Very different. Very, very different. One person is mature enough to understand that it is wrong. The other person, if Krishna does not give him these material things, he will give up Krishna consciousness. So they belong to two different categories. So Krishna reciprocates with them differently. Bhakti Siddhanta Swami dealt with this. He said the duplicitous worshipper of Krishna, for him, Krishna will give him all kinds of material benefits. Then for the non-duplicitous worshipper of Krishna, Krishna will take away the material benefits. Like this person, Daksha. There is a Hamsa Dukhya prayers. So he performed lots of austerities. And he prayed to Lord Vishnu to appear and give him blessings. And he became Prajapati. And Lord Vishnu also blessed him. That yes, may you enjoy life, material life. So Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains, this is what it is not a blessing, it's a curse. Because if that were to be the case, if actually Lord Vishnu was to be satisfied with Daksha, he would have liberated him from all of this. But he did not liberate him from this. He pushed him into this. So from this we understand, he explains that we understand that Lord Vishnu's mercy, this is not an instance of his non-duplicitous mercy, duplicitous mercy. So it is not enough just that Krishna appears before him and gives me something. He may be just cheating me. Because it's not actually for my benefit. So if I'm like Daksha, then Krishna will fulfill that desire. But on the other hand, if Prabhupada uses his expression, special mercy. Those who have received Krishna's special mercy, for them Krishna takes away their material desire, takes away things. So there's one very frightening verse in it. That refers to the special mercy, those who are eligible for special mercy. Then there's ordinary mercy. Ordinary mercy means you want to means you surrender to Krishna. It's just ordinary mercy. Chaturvidha Vedantevangana Sukrutavakam Arto Arthati Vidyasya Arto Vidyasya Arthati Arthati. Paul said Krishna speak, surrenders, Shadanga Sharanagati. He says, my Lord, please give me this. I'm sorry, but I really need it. So then Krishna gives him that. But whether he'll become a pure devotee of Krishna and all is not so easy. If he is desirous of pure devotional service, or if he is at least open to it, then he will be pure. Otherwise, his material desire will be fulfilled. But even to have it fulfilled by Krishna is good, because then Krishna will pull him towards Sattva-guna. Gradually he will be brought to that line. The majority of people don't want to worship Lord Vishnu because he will pull them towards liberation. And people don't want it. They want material desires to be fulfilled within material existence. So then, therefore, that is demigod worship arranged for them. Otherwise, what is the point of demigod? Whatever these demigods can do. Anyway, Shastri describes the demigods in there every day. Every day they worship Lord Vishnu. And they pray to them, oh Lord, our worshippers are praying for so many things, our devotees, please fulfill all that. Then Lord Vishnu says, all right, fine. And then that is how their desires are all being fulfilled. Okay. So why demigod worship has to be there anyway? Anyway, they don't have independent power. So then why is it there? It is there for those who cannot handle Vishnu worship at all. Because Krishna is so too demanding. Pull you. He's not just a neutral shopkeeper. He'll pull you. You come into the shop, you will start talking, you will sit down. Whereas demigod is a proper shop. Do this thing, pick up your product, goodbye. Because their duty is just to create faith in Vedic Dharma. That's all. So then the Jivatma registers that yes, it actually in everything in Vedic civilization works. If I just have to do it properly with humility, everything comes. So then that faith will then register into the subtle body, and then next life. So when one does this kind of pious activities for several lifetimes, then he develops faith in the Vedas. Absolute faith he develops in the Vedas. So that injunction, that is meant for those who are ready for special mercy. Suppose I know everything. I know this is good, this is bad, and still I'm asking for that which is bad. Then, and I tell the Supreme Lord, I'm sorry, I'm just stupid. I don't know what to do. This is just stuck. I don't know who else to ask. I don't know where to go. I know if I go to you, either you will give me that, or you will make me forget that. But please do something. So then Krishna takes charge. He likes it. Somehow or other you come to me. But for this other group also, Krishna deals with them. Artha, Jigyasu, Arthati, this group is there. No, they are material. Okay. And then you have the Jnani. The Jnani is actually a pure devotee. So now Baladev Vidyabhushan says, how long does it take for the first three to enter into the fourth category? Bahunam Janmanam. Yeah. After several lifetimes, they become pure devotees. Until they are bored. They ask for, they have material desires, that's why they are serving to Krishna. So Krishna gives them heavenly happiness over many lifetimes, for long periods of time, until they are totally bored with it. Say, okay, enough of it, I don't want. Is there anything better than this? Then Krishna shows himself, I am much better than this. Surrender to me for me. So what that takes many lifetimes. Okay, we'll stop with this. Question.